What happens when two of Marvel's greatest titans collide? Hulk vs. Spider-Man with a venomous twist. Before we jump into this battle in 3D, let's rewind to where many first saw these to clash. Classic arcade style. The fast-paced button mashing, pixelated combat, and landing that perfect combo. Today, we're diving into this jaw-dropping 3D masterpiece by Z Studios that pits the Hulk against Spider-Man, while Venom lurks in the shadows, or rather, engulfs the Hulk himself. Now that you've had a sneak peek on the epic build we will be working on, let's take a look at the studio, where all the magic happens. Welcome to Astrovision Studio. The space is organized into sections for a smooth workflow: printing, washing and curing, prepping supplies, and everything I need for painting. I've already oriented, hollowed, and supported all the pieces of the model, and trust me, there were a lot. In total, if everything prints without failure, it should take me 6 prints. That means a few days of non-stop printing and plenty of cleanup. So let's jump right in, starting with the biggest individual piece of the build, Hulk's torso and head. With the first print complete, let's remove the supports, give it a wash, and let it fully dry. Then, we'll do a final cure to ensure no uncured resin remains on the model. The best way to remove supports is by using a heat gun or blow dryer on the hottest setting. This softens the supports, allowing them to break off cleanly with minimal damage to the model. While this method reduces damage, I still place supports in less noticeable areas to minimize visible markings. After removing most of the supports, I place the pieces in my Elegoo wash machine filled with isopropyl alcohol. The machine agitates the IPA, breaking up any uncured resin clinging to the model. I usually leave it in the solution for about 6 to 10 minutes. While that runs, I'll prep the printer for the next round of prints. While most people only clean their vat after failed prints, I prefer to do it after every print to ensure no floating pieces remain in the resin. This gives me the best chance of success on the next print by filtering out any loose or cured bits. Enjoying the video? Don't forget to like and subscribe. Let me know your favorite part in the comments. I love hearing from you. Each project has been an exciting journey, and it feels like we're learning together. Next, I'll refill the vat slightly below the max fill line to ensure smooth printing and enough resin for the full print without needing a midway refill. With the printer ready, it's time for the next print, Spider-Man. This entire piece fits onto one build plate, making for a smooth and efficient print. Once the print is complete, I carefully remove it from the build plate, ensuring all the fine details remain intact. Using a scraper, I gently lift it off, though sometimes a bit of force is needed. Oops, it slipped off the table. Thankfully, everything looks fine. At the washing and curing station, I use a blow dryer to soften the supports for easy removal before washing the print in isopropyl alcohol. After 6 minutes, it's clean, dried, and ready for curing. Seeing all the pieces laid out to dry is a reminder of the work ahead, but taking it one step at a time keeps the process manageable. Next up is curing. This step strengthens the model, enhances paint adhesion, and ensures it's safe to handle. Some of the larger pieces are a tight fit in the curing box, which makes positioning a bit tricky. After some adjustments and removing the plate, I finally get everything to fit. With curing complete, it's time to refine the model. I don't follow a strict order with tools. I work through each piece carefully, staying patient since any blemishes will be obvious once primed. I start by inspecting the model, clipping away any lingering supports while being careful not to damage fine details. Depending on the section, I switch between sandpaper, small files, and a mini rotary tool to smooth out imperfections. One issue I ran into was with the base piece. It had a male key for alignment, but no female slot. So, I had to take the rotary tool and carefully remove that part to make it fit properly. After a final inspection, everything is cleaned up and ready for test assembly. Some pieces fit perfectly, while others need slight adjustments to align properly. Seeing the build come together for the first time is incredibly exciting. It's really starting to take shape, and I can't wait to get it finished and on display. Now on to assembly. Some parts will be bonded now rather than kept separate for painting to ensure a seamless final build. The base, in particular, is one piece I prefer to fully assemble at this stage. I'll use a combination of glue and resin to seal and remove any seam lines as much as possible, making the final result look more polished and cohesive. First, I carefully align the parts to ensure a perfect fit once glued. There's no turning back. Once everything is in place, I glue the pieces together, then move over to the other table to resin cure the model and seal the seams. I start by filling larger gaps with plastic filler, smoothing it out before reinforcing the bond with resin and a UV light to fully seal the seams for a flawless finish. I apply the same process to Hulk's arms, making sure there are no visible seams where they connect to his torso for a seamless, natural look. With all the prep work finally done, we're ready to start painting. First, I'll prime the models with a high-quality, durable black base coat. This ensures better paint adhesion in the later stages and helps bring out the finer details of the model. There are several ways to prime your model. Sometimes, I use a spray can primer in my backyard, but those tend to be thicker and can obscure fine details. If you have an airbrush, a high-quality airbrush primer is the way to go. It provides a smoother coat without clogging your equipment. With all the pieces primed and dried, I start by painting Spider-Man's vibrant blue. I use a mix of Acryl Blue with a touch of sky blue for highlights. Using an airbrush, I thin the paint for a smooth and even application, ensuring a clean, professional finish. Keeping the parts separate allows me to apply base colors more efficiently to each area. Some sections will need masking or touch-ups later, but for now, overspraying onto the torso isn't an issue, since it will be painted red in the next stage. With the blue areas carefully masked, it's time to move on to the red sections of Spider-Man. The clean lines will really stand out in the final reveal, making all the prep work worth it. Just like with the blue, I blended different shades of Acryl Red to add depth and subtle highlights. Layering the colors carefully, I focused on enhancing the muscle definition and natural shadows, making the suit feel more dynamic and lifelike. This approach brings a sense of movement to the figure, making it pop even before adding further details. Keeping the boots separate from the legs made painting them red much easier. Once assembled, the seam line will blend naturally due to the color contrast, potentially even enhancing the final look. While that dries, let's move on to Hulk's green. Even though much of it will be covered by Venom's black slime, laying down a full base coat helps establish the overall depth and structure of the figure. Unfortunately, during this part of the video, I accidentally bumped my light into view, messing up a portion of the shot. Not ideal, but hey, mistakes happen. Luckily, the process itself is still clear, so we'll push through and keep things moving. I use a mix of greens, starting with a mid-tone base before building up highlights on the raised areas like his muscles and face. Shadows are deepened in the recessed areas to enhance the contrast, making the sculpt's definition stand out even before the next layers are applied. This process not only adds realism, but also helps guide where the black symbiote effects will later be placed, ensuring a more organic and natural transition between colors. Painting Hulk and Spider-Man's base colors was one of the most enjoyable parts of the build. Everything after that became a real challenge. I definitely underestimated how much work Venom's black slime would take to paint over Hulk, but that comes later. For now, Spider-Man's dry, so let's peel back the masking tape and see how clean the lines turned out. I can't wait to check it out. Since I couldn't grip it with my fingers, I carefully used a hobby knife to lift a corner, making it easier to peel back the rest of the tape smoothly. That was incredibly satisfying. The lines came out crisp and flawless. This was my first time using Posca markers, so I picked up a full set from ultrafine to extra large, knowing they'd be perfect for detailing Spider-Man's webbing. I started with the smallest one, carefully outlining each intricate line, while getting a feel for how the marker flowed over the surface. At first, keeping a steady hand was challenging. Some imperfections in the model made it tricky to stay perfectly within the lines, and I had to adjust my approach. But as I settled into a rhythm, the process became more enjoyable. I learned to work with the texture of the model rather than against it, refining each line with careful layering. The key was patience. Rushing would only make mistakes more noticeable. I took my time, ensuring each stroke added depth to the webbing and complemented the sculpt. Gradually, the details came together, bringing Spider-Man's suit to life. By the end, I was really happy with how it turned out for a first attempt. If you've painted Spider-Man's webbing before, I'd love to hear your techniques in the comments. Now for Spider-Man's eyes. Getting these just right is crucial. They define so much of his expression and bring the entire figure to life. I start by mapping out the shape, ensuring both eyes are symmetrical. Using a steady hand, I apply a clean white base coat to make them pop against the red mask. Once the base is dry, I carefully outline them with black, sharpening the edges for a crisp, comic accurate look. The contrast between the bold black outline and bright white centers really makes Spider-Man's face stand out. Let's move on to Spider-Man's chest logo. Normally, I'd use a paintbrush for this, but I'm really enjoying working with these markers right now, so I'll stick with them for this detail. Spider-Man is nearly finished, so I'll set him aside and shift focus back to the Incredible Hulk. This part of the build was a real challenge. I could have taken the easier route, but choosing the version where Hulk is engulfed by Venom added a whole new level of complexity. To bring this to life, I used a combination of hand painting for intricate details, airbrushing for broad coverage, and Posca markers for precision. The markers were surprisingly useful, allowing me to work continuously without constantly reloading paint onto a brush, which helped speed up the process. Airbrushing was the best approach for covering large areas, especially in spots too tight for brushes. I had to be extra careful along the finer details to keep the lines sharp and avoid overspray. Despite the challenges, seeing the build take shape made all the effort worthwhile. With that finally done, it's time to apply a gloss coat to bring Venom to life. This final layer enhances the depth of the black symbiote, giving it a sleek, organic sheen that makes it stand out. The contrast between the glossy black and the matte areas of the model adds realism, making the textures pop. Once this coat dries, the transformation will be complete, and the dynamic presence of Venom will be fully realized in the build. While that fully dries, let's move on to Hulk's most iconic feature, his purple shorts. I start with a black base coat to create depth and shadows in the fabric. Then, I gradually work in dark purple tones, slowly blending them into lighter shades to give the shorts that faded, worn-out denim look. This layering technique helps add realism and texture, making the fabric appear all natural and lived in. To enhance the effect, I use a dry brushing technique with a lighter purple to highlight the raised areas, bringing out subtle folds and creases. This step is crucial in capturing the dynamic movement of Hulk's shorts, ensuring they don't look one-dimensional. Once everything is blended smoothly, the shorts have a realistic, battle-worn look that complements the rest of the build. With Hulk's shorts done, I move on to finer details, starting with his gums. I use a blood effect paint straight over the green. The mix creates a natural, fleshy appearance. Once I paint his teeth, the look will start coming together. I start with an off-white base, then work in shades of yellow and brown to create a slightly aged, worn look. It's important to balance the tones. Too much yellow, and they look dirty, too white, and they appear unrealistic. To enhance the texture, I dry brush subtle highlights along the edges, making each tooth stand out. Hulk's eyes are a defining feature, so I start with a deep green base coat, gradually adding lighter highlights for depth and vibrancy. To intensify his rage, I ensure the irises have a strong glow, finishing with a sharp white reflection dot for realism. With Spider-Man's boot pressing down on Hulk's face, I adjust his gaze upward, heightening the tension and struggle in the scene. This subtle detail adds more emotion and expression to the final build. Perfecting his nails takes time. I layer shades of yellow and green to create a worn, aged effect, carefully blending the colors to maintain a natural look. Dry brushing enhances the ridges and texture, while washes soften transitions for a more organic finish. The key is patience, building up layers gradually to avoid an artificial look. In the end, the rough, weathered nails stand out against his skin, adding to the realism of the model. I take my time working through each of his toenails and fingernails, layering different colors and experimenting with shades to get the right look. This part of the process is a great opportunity to try new techniques and see what works best. I'm constantly learning, and every step in this process helps me improve. If you have any tips or tricks, drop them in the comments. I'd love to hear your insights. And if you're enjoying the video, don't forget to like and subscribe. Your support and engagement mean a lot and keep me motivated to refine my craft. Now on to Venom, starting with his massive white eye. I carefully outline the shape, ensuring crisp edges that contrast sharply against the deep black symbiote. Once dry, I'll apply multiple layers of gloss to enhance its shine, making it stand out with an intense, almost liquid-like effect. Next, I focus on Venom's gums and teeth, which engulf Hulk's head. For his gums, I blend blood effect reds with a tan flesh tone, adjusting the mix on the palette until I'm satisfied with the color. As I paint, I layer in additional blood tones directly onto the gums to enhance the raw, sinister effect. Carefully shading the crevices adds depth and realism, making them look truly menacing. With his gums dry, I move on to his teeth. I start with a bone white base, gradually adding subtle stains and shading to enhance their menacing, lifelike appearance. The key is finding the right balance, contrasting the gums and teeth to create an unsettling, organic look that brings Venom's monstrous presence to life. Each of these details takes time, but they bring the characters to life, making every moment of the process worth it. With the project nearly complete, I shift my focus to the final touches, ensuring every element is refined and cohesive. I paint his hair and eyebrows using a blend of black with a subtle touch of dark green, adding depth and a more organic look. I carefully dry brush additional tones onto Hulk, incorporating blood flesh undertones, subtle veins, and warm yellow highlights to emphasize key features. These small adjustments enhance the realism and add depth to his massive frame. Once satisfied with Hulk's final look, I move on to the base to tie everything together. I start by painting the dust clouds that billow from the force of Hulk's impact against the rocks. This part was especially fun, blending dark earth tones into lighter dust clouds to create a natural, cinematic effect. For the rocks, I start with a base of light dust brown, then build up layers with dry brushing and washes in earth tones. This mix of techniques creates natural variations, giving the rocks an organic, realistic feel. With all the final details complete, it's time for the final assembly. Seeing all the pieces come together is incredibly rewarding, and the effort put into every detail truly pays off. This project has been a huge journey, from printing and prepping to painting and refining. Each stage had its challenges, but in the end, everything came together beautifully. Before we dive into the final reveal, I want to say a big thank you to everyone who watched and supported this project. Your feedback and encouragement mean the world, and I love sharing this process with you. If you enjoyed this build, be sure to like, subscribe, and drop a comment below. Let me know what you think and what projects you'd love to see next. Now, let's check out the final reveal.